Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Scruffy Movies Podcast. I'm Zach Wallace.
And I'm John Crocker.
Today we have one. We told you it was going to start getting a little more Marvel-centric around here, and that's exactly what we're doing. We're diving in headfirst into what is arguably the best phase of the MCU, to me, at least, and we are going to go from part one to part two, since there's just so many movies to dig through. We didn't think we could do it all in one. So today we're going to be doing phase 3, part 1, and that's going to be talking about Captain America Civil War, Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and Spider-Man Homecoming.
So right off the bat, rank them.
Well, Civil War is in my top 5 MCU movies of all time. So definitely Civil War first, then Spider-Man, then Guardians, then Strange. Easy rank.
Nah. You screwed that one all up. No. I would say Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy, and then Captain America.
No way. Civil War is so good. I like Doctor Strange. I don't know. I've watched Doctor Strange. I went to the movies to see it, and I watched it once, and then I watched it again when I got it on Blu-ray, and just both times it didn't wow me. Like, it was a good movie, but I wasn't like, whoa. Like, it wasn't top tier for me. It was in the same ranks of what I consider like Black Panther, Captain Marvel. Like, good movies, but nothing that I would be like, whoa, my God, you guys got to go check it out.
See, that's kind of the way I felt about like Guardians 2. So that it was a good movie, but it just didn't wow me as much as I anticipated. But Doctor Strange is one of my favorites. It's in my top for sure. And we can dive into that if you want. Yeah. Or we could start from the beginning and work our way through all 4.
Whatever we're doing, man, we're just talking about Marvel. I'm ready to go. I prepared no notes. So wherever the conversation takes us is where we're going to end up.
I love it. Well, let's start with the big one then, because it's the first one, and that's Civil War.
Right. So this one to me is almost like Avengers 2.5. I remember when they were announcing this, because it was actually happening, they announced all of phase 3 at once, which I kind of hope they do again for phase 4, because it was super awesome. They didn't have like video up live streaming or anything, but we were watching somebody's live Twitter feed that was there, and they were updating like with all the movies that were coming out and stuff. And me and my friends were in our suite in college seeing it happen live, and we were freaking out. And originally, because Civil War was coming out first, they announced it as Captain America Serpent Society. And so they just kept going, and then it got like to the end of where they announced everything, and Kevin Feige was like, I'm just having like buyer's remorse on that Serpent Society title. There must be just like a better title out there somewhere. And then they announced it as Civil War, and people just lost their minds. And I remember seeing like the live Twitter feed of the guy going, Serpent Society was a fake. It's Civil War. It's Civil War. And people were like freaking out. And then I think that the movie held up to that. I love Civil War. I love that it's the introduction of Spider-Man and Black Panther, and I think they introduced both of them fantastically. I love the freaking splash page fight we get at the airport. That is incredible. I love that it introduced Ant-Man to the bigger Avengers universe, and everything fit together. Like, nothing felt out of place for me in that movie. Everything felt like it deserved its spot in that movie, and I just love it.
Except for the entire time they were fighting against one another, which is just the most out of place thing ever for an Avengers movie, and probably the number one reason why I didn't like it. I don't know. I didn't like the fact that it pitted them against one another. That like underpinned. That was like the undertone for that entire movie that just made me have a bad taste in my mouth about it. I mean, I agree. It was great character introductions. I loved Ant-Man at the airport, and that airport scene was great anyway, and especially when Spider-Man got in there. But the whole just you're on Team Stark or Team, Captain America just was – it was too much like Twilight to me, where it's like one side or another. I didn't like it. Didn't like it at all. Felt like they did it on purpose. And it was definitely, you're right, it was absolutely an Avengers movie. That should have been an Avengers movie.
I almost feel like that is more like that you can watch from Avengers and then kind of skip over Age of Ultron and go straight to Civil War and not really lose a beat.
Yeah.
But I mean, even in the very first Avengers movie, they were teasing that like Captain America and Iron Man don't get along. Like, they are only working together because they're both superheroes and society has deemed it necessary for them to work together to stop greater threats to the universe. But even in that first Avengers movie, they were not like friends or anything. They were just people that worked together. And so seeing that eventually come to a head, and then seeing how it leads up to when the greatest threat that's ever come to Earth, which is Thanos, the Avengers are scattered throughout the galaxy. They're splintered because of this movie. If they were all together, it would have been a different fight in Infinity War. So just seeing what this movie brought to like the greater MCU, I think helps it a lot too.
I mean, I think that the sort of fighting and squabbling between the two along the way was great, and that's what made their relationship. But at the end of the day, they were teammates, and they would always come back and work with one another because they knew they had to for the greater good of humanity in the galaxy. And I don't know, it wasn't one of my favorites, that's for sure. To me, I put Civil War in with like Captain Marvel and the more low tier Marvel movie, mid to low tier. It's mid to low only because it's basically an Avengers movie. So it is, I mean, it's not a bad movie. I say all this because I love all of these movies. It's not a terrible movie by any means, but it's definitely not one that gets me excited to go see it. I just feel like angry when I get done watching it. Like I get no resolution. I don't like it.
I mean, that's what I think really, if whenever Endgame comes out, once you're able to sit down and watch Civil War, Infinity War, and then Endgame back to back, I think that'll make it for a pretty cool trilogy.
Yeah, I don't doubt that, because you're right. It does play. I mean, they do a great job at keeping the story going on. Like it will absolutely fit its place recent Avengers movies. But still, as far as does it make me feel warm and fuzzy when I get done watching it? Do I want to put it in and watch it more than any of the others? Nope.
I watch it. I feel like I watch it all the time. Like I'll just be sitting here and be like, man, I gotta watch Civil War again.
Gotta watch Civil War. For some reason, that just makes total sense.
And I remember cheering in the theater whenever they're like, well, we got to even the odds or something. We need a team to go out and try and stop him. And Tony's like, oh, I know a guy. And then he like kind of smiles and it cuts to Queens. Everyone in the theater started cheering because everybody knew what that was. Everybody knew that was about to be Spider-Man.
Yeah. And I remember the scene, at least I think so. There's one where they're at the airport where Ant-Man just gets humongous, right?
Yeah, that's the first time you ever see him grow big.
Yeah, I like that. I remember that. That will always sort of sit in my memory for sure.
Yeah, where he's running down the airplane thing and he's like, I'm the boss, I'm the boss, I'm the boss.
I don't know. I just don't like it when you take all the heroes and pit them against one another. I know sometimes it works, but to me, that's it for me. I can't justify this. Don't expect a good explanation, because that's about all I've got.
See, but I feel like they did it because it was all based in character decisions, and it was based in each each of their own thoughts. Like there was never a point where I was like, man, why did Iron Man make this decision? Or like, that's stupid. Why did Captain America make this decision? Like every decision they make that slowly tore them apart was like, I could understand why the character made the decision. I mean, even up until the last thing, Captain America was never against Tony. He was against him, like, theoretically, and he fought him to continue his mission, but he was never like, yeah, whatever, Tony, let's fight. And like, even up until the end, until Tony was like, I'm gonna kill Bucky, did Captain America actually legitimately was like, I have to fight to stop him. So
didn't Bucky kill his parents? He probably should have killed him. I'd have killed Bucky. I don't like Bucky. We've talked about this before, too.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, yeah.
Yeah. Bucky is a waste of screen time, and as far as I'm concerned.
I disagree. I like Bucky a lot.
He does nothing. Yeah. He pushes nothing. He's just there. It's like, oh, yeah, he was in Wakanda because they had to send him somewhere safe. Like,
he needed to get the brainwash out, and Shuri's the only one that could do it safely.
Yeah. Well, and wasn't the whole reason they were against one another to begin with because, like, the UN or something wanted to control the Avengers, and Tony was like, yeah, I'm totally for that because I'm irresponsible, which that doesn't make any sense for Tony either, because he's never wanted to give his stuff over to the government ever, like ever. That's been an underlying theme, that they want control of his stuff, and he's never wanted to give it to them. And then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, I mean, I think he accidentally maybe blows a few people up or something, or somebody does. But other than that, it's just like, yeah, you know what? Not only do we need, U.S. sanctions, I guess I'll take a world governing body telling me what to do. That is the most anti-Tony Stark move I can possibly point to in the entirety of the MCU. Is that
but that's Tony is a totally different person in Civil War than he was in the first two Iron Man movies. Even in the first Avengers movie, he caused Ultron. He caused Age of Ultron, and he knows that. He knows he built Ultron and that he killed all these people. And then in Civil War, when he's confronted with that fact, finally somebody has looked at him and said, do the Avengers actually do all the good you think they're doing, or do you cause more harm and just not care? And then that's when Tony's like, yeah, we need somebody to be on our side and sanction us so that they can get in like the proper clearances and the proper rescue teams and stuff, instead of us just going in and blowing stuff up, because clearly it's not working. People are dying when we're trying to do this stuff. The whole reason he created Ultron was so that he could put a shield around the world. I forget his exact terminology in Age of Ultron, but something like that. He wanted to just create like a world, like so that the Avengers didn't have to fight anymore. Just Ultron and these robots could do it.
Well, if he wanted a governing body, he should have went to somebody like Odin and not the UN. That's what I say.
The UN came to them and they said, sign these accords, the Sokovia Accords, basically saying that the Avengers can still do their avenging and can still fight, but just like under the government's jurisdiction. Like you and I are working together. You're not just like rolling up willy-nilly anymore and starting blowing stuff up. The government's going to be like, hey, you got to go here. You got to fight this thing. And then that's Captain America's whole thing, is like, if we see something and we need to go fight it and the government says no, I can't stand behind that. And that makes sense for Captain America. And it makes sense for Tony.
That makes sense for Tony, though, too. It makes sense for both of them. They have a lot of things that they differentiate on. And I know Tony's changed a lot, but that makes total sense for Tony Stark as well. The guy who doesn't care about political boundaries and will go wherever to do whatever he needs to.
I just feel like Age of Ultron is the equivocal moment of Tony changing from like genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist that he described himself in the first Avengers, like kind of the cocky guy, into the, oh no, I caused this, all these people are dying because of me thing. I mean, he's even said to Spider-Man, he's looked at Spider-Man and been like, if you die, that's on me. And all he did was give the kid a suit and say, you can be a hero. And so now he caused those deaths. Spider-Man's death would be something outward where he didn't even directly cause it. He directly caused people's deaths in Age of Ultron. And I think that just finally got to him. And he was like, we need somebody to tell us what to do, because clearly we can't make these decisions anymore. When we make these decisions, people die. And it's on us.
If that's how it's justified, then I'm not okay with that character arc.
That's definitely how it's justified, though.
Well, so be it. I don't like it. All right, Doctor Strange.
Okay, Doctor Strange, let's go.
So this is one of definitely like top 3 favorite Marvel movies so far. It's just such a welcome break from the typical formula of the Marvel movies. It's the first one I remember for sure, where the big bad guy in the end gets beat because of like being outsmarted and not because of just sheer brawn, which seems to be kind of everything leading up to that point. So that was just nice for us, because Doctor Strange came out when everybody was like, oh gosh, more superhero movies. Like before they really got the re-energize of Black Panther and the last Avengers and everything else. It was sort of starting to drone on there at the end. And I think Doctor Strange came at the perfect time. I loved a lot of the stuff in the movie and like the locations. I think there were sanctums, right? Is that what they called them?
Sanctum Sanctorum, or something like that. Yeah.
All the cool artifacts, man. Like that's right up my alley. Like all the crazy stuff. Doctor Strange cape. I think it's the cape of levitation. Is that his?
I don't know for sure.
I think Doctor Strange has the cape of levitation, but that had its own little personality. I thought they did that very well. I loved all the books. I loved the chunky guy. What's his name? Either Wang or Wong. Wong. I loved Wong. And then that even left a few things still out there in the open too, like old boy with the wings on his boots, like is it the Achilles boots? Not Achilles. You know who I'm talking about in Greek mythology.
Yeah, I think it is. Oh gosh.
Either way, I can't remember. I can't remember the character's name in the movie.
Yeah, it definitely starts with an A.
Yeah.
The guy in Greek mythology, for sure.
We're about to find out.
But yeah, I mean, while you're looking that up, I liked Doctor Strange. It just wasn't one of my favorites. It just wasn't one that I just came out of it and I was like, whoa. I think it's really cool. I like that it took the MCU in kind of in like a different direction. But I don't know, just the whole time I was just like, it never connected with me. Like if there's like 3 lanes of traffic and you got to be in the left lane to be fully committed, I was in the right lane and then I got to the middle lane watching the movie. And then like I turned my turn signal on to merge into the left lane. I just never got over. I don't know. It's just something about it just didn't like fully 100% connect with me.
Mercury is the answer to that question.
What?
But, yeah.
Really? No way. I don't believe that. For real?
Yep, it is. And Hermes is the other one.
Hermes is who I was thinking of.
Yeah. But either way, I don't know. Doctor Strange looked great. I love the effects. It was, other than Guardians, it's probably the only Marvel movie where you watch it and if you could think it was in its own little world maybe because it just doesn't look the same. Like Captain America, even Spider-Man and Iron Man, all of those look like they're taking place in the same universe because of the art style they actually use in the movie. But Guardians of the Galaxy tends to be more contrasty, bright colors. So it just looks more off-world-ish, which I think is kind of on purpose. And then Doctor Strange was just a total, just like psychedelic trip of a movie as far as the art goes. And I love that aspect too. Like it was, again, just sort of a welcome break when everything else was sort of droning together. And I love the story. I like old kung fu movies big time. So the whole literally broken hands to giving into the master to learning the art and respect and appreciation and then going out there and actually standing up for it and doing something cool and saving the universe. And I just like Doctor Strange as a character. I just really like his character. I think it's just, he's like the weirdo in the back that everybody's like, oh yeah, you're here. You're not Captain America. You're not Tony Stark. You command a presence. You're like an older dude, but you're probably just as powerful in your own right. But it's like, oh yeah, you're there. Like he's not the center of attention, and I like that.
Yeah, he's definitely not like the one who like when he walks in, he commands the room, but he knows the most out of literally anybody else. Like he's the only one in Infinity War that like knew where it was going in Endgame. He's the only person that knew like this is how we win. Everybody else was just trying to fight and win. He was the only dude that was like, this is how we do it.
Yeah, and it goes back to sort of the end of the first, or the end of his own movie as well, when he sort of makes that reference, I've seen however many 10,000 futures, 10 million futures, because literally like how he won in his own movie was replaying an event over and over and over and over until he figured it out and got the sequence of events in the right order to lead towards victory, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, I like the effects of everything. I like the actors in it. I really like the character of Doctor Strange. I think Benedict Cumberbatch plays a really good Doctor Strange. I enjoyed him more in Infinity War than I did in his own movie. I don't know. It just wasn't something. And it might have been, honestly, it might have had something to do with like the first time I saw it. Because the first time I saw it, we saw it in 3D, and the 3D was really not good. Like it was kind of blurry, and that might have affected my opinion of it. I try not to let things like that affect my opinion of it, but I mean, of course, like if you can't see it very well, then you're not going to have much fun.
Man, that's why I've almost stopped going to see 3D movies unless I know that it's a movie that's specifically made to be seen in 3D. Like, like something like Avatar. There's no way I would go see that not in 3D, right? But something like Guardians of the Galaxy, or not Guardians of the Galaxy, but Doctor Strange, I could almost justify in my life now on a regular basis not splurging for the 3D ticket, because more often than not the 3D is like not tuned in right, or it's not focused, or it just sucks, or it's not even worth it. It's more of a pain than it's worth, dude.
Yeah, Doctor Strange was the last one in like regular theaters that we saw anything in 3D, and I think we saw Guardians of the Galaxy, but that was at IMAX 3D, and so I knew like that would be ready to go. But yeah, just like regular 3D, we don't even like, I don't even consider those, like I don't even look at those showtimes anymore. I'm just like, well, we're not going to see that one. Like unless I roll up to a theater and that's just like the next showtime and we got to watch this now, I don't even like look at 3D showtimes anymore. It's not just good 3D anymore. It's not, there was a span of movies where they made it to be in 3D. Now everything they just release in 3D because they can, trying to get like extra money, even though it's not really like, it doesn't have to be in 3D,
Right. And every now and then there may be that moment in the movie where you're like, now the broom handle fell at me. Like, I bet if that were in 3D, like, I noticed that moment. That was there specifically for the 3D crowd. Yeah. But other than that, I don't think you lose a lot.
No, I don't think so either. There's a million movies that get released in 3D now, and I don't see like any of them in 3D. And I've never lost an ounce of sleep over it.
Yeah. And that's so sad, because 3D is totally one of those things that I feel like they just need to figure out how to do it right to the masses. So at our local theaters where we don't have IMAX, we can go in there and be confident that when we pay the half again or double the amount of money for a ticket, that it's not going to be blurry, and that it is going to look good. Because that's the biggest problem, is that, and it's not like, oh, it makes my eyes hurt or anything like that. It's no, the movie quality like actually diminishes because I tried to get the better viewing experience, which is totally opposite of what it should be.
Yeah, they have to darken the screen so that you're able to like see it through the glasses and stuff. And then everything's like, if it's even just a little bit off, everybody has an outline around them, every building, every person, and it just takes you totally out of the movie for the whole movie. Even if it's like a centimeter off for the whole movie, you're like, oh, great.
And one thing I've found too is that a good 3D movie, you can focus on everything that's going on the screen, just like you normally can. Like at IMAX, even on a bigger screen, you don't have to move your head as much in 3D to focus what's going on. But here at our local theaters in 3D, if you're not looking directly at something, if anything is in the periphery of your vision, it's fuzzy.
Yeah.
And that to me is the trademark of good 3D versus bad 3D.
Yeah. Yeah, and that and just like usually I use 3D and especially IMAX 3D to kind of like, if it's a very important movie, it's like well, only the real fans will be in the IMAX 3D show. Like nobody's going to drop $25 a ticket unless they're like legit about seeing the movie, and they're going to shut up and just be quiet during it. And so sometimes it's kind of the ultimatum of, well, we could go see it in IMAX 3D because then nobody else would be in the theater.
Yeah, that's true.
But even now, like Infinity War and Endgame, I even said, because somebody was like, we should go see it in IMAX 3D, of my group of friends that I'm going to see it with. And I was like, no, because I want to enjoy it the first time I watch it. I don't want to see it in 3D the first time. Like the second or third time, maybe I'll give it a shot, whatever. But like, I want to enjoy it when I go see it. I don't want to see it in 3D the first time.
Yeah, it's a shame that that's really the best way to enjoy movies, is to see it regular the first time, 3D the second. Because that's hands down the best way to do it. If you do that, you'll never be disappointed.
Yeah, I agree. Because then you can always like enjoy the movie the first time, and then the second time you're just kind of like, you're watching the movie again, but you're catching some stuff maybe you didn't catch the first time. And like, you're seeing some stuff pop out and you're like, oh, neat, cool. Like, this is a cool viewing experience. It's a little bit different than the first time, but I'm getting more from it.
Yeah. And I definitely think more theaters need to step up the, like, the fork and screen or spoon and screen, whatever those places are, movie tavern, capabilities. I love having like a cheeseburger at a movie theater delivered to me while I'm sitting there. So while we're on the topic, I'm slipping that one in too.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever been to one or heard of it. Have you ever heard of the theater chain Alamo Drafthouse?
No.
Okay, so it's a very small theater chain. I don't think there's many in the US, but they are a place like that. And they specifically are like movie theaters for people who love movies. Like, I've been to one, and it's in Durham, the one I've been to. And they have free rentals of DVDs, VHSs. Like, you can go in there and rent stuff. Like, the lobby area where you get concessions and everything is also a video rental store, because they just want you to be able to watch movies. And then at the movie, you have giant reclining seats, and you have little order cards where you can look at the menu. The menus are tucked like right in next to your seat. You open it up, look at the menu, write down what you want, stick your order card in like your seat thing, and there's people just at the back. Like, throughout the whole movie, if you're like, I'm kind of hungry, I'm going to order a cheeseburger. 30 minutes into the movie, you write it down, stick it, and people look like down the aisles to see if any order cards are up. They go and take it, go process your order, and bring it back. And then before the movie lets out, they come and like get your payment, take your card and stuff. So you don't even have to worry about it. Like, once the movie's out, you can just go. And they are also specifically, you can't talk in an Alamo Drafthouse. Like, you can't talk. If you get in trouble for talking or being on your phone, you get kicked out and banned from every Alamo Drafthouse. Can't come back to any of them. You're gone for forever if someone complains about you talking or being on your phone.
That's awesome.
Love that.
Yeah, that's super awesome. I know at the movie tavern where I go, if I go to anything like that, they have a button that, obviously they're like regular menus, and you click a button and it turns a little red light on like under your seat, so they can just glance down the aisle under everybody's seats and see if there's any lights on. And then they like scurry up to you, real low, and you just whisper your order to them. But I like the idea of no talking at all and having order cards, and just sort of making it as pleasurable for everyone else as possible. Not that, people whispering here and there is a big deal, but you always have those couple of guys that are just have the person just continually bringing beers throughout the entire movie.
Yeah. And every like movie theater I've been to where it's like you can eat stuff, the food has always been really good.
Yeah, I'll ditto that for sure.
Like, every single one I've been to, the food has been incredible. I've never had a bad plate of food at any of those places.
I think it's because they understand the true concept of like dining in a movie. It's the medieval times and Dixie Stampede concept of, if you're going to have a show and you're going to feed them, the food had better be really darn good.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like something that they legitimately have to, like, instead of having 30 things where it's just food and like that's all you're doing and there's 30 different things going on all at one time, they just have like 10 things. And they're like, you're not one of these 10 things and you're not eating here. And they're just like, they just have chefs that are really good at those 10 things.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, most of the places I've been to that do it is, we're talking about cheeseburgers and hot wings and quesadillas.
Chicken tenders.
Yeah, chicken tenders. We're not talking about things that are, easy to mess up.
Yeah. But yeah, the food's incredible. I love the experience of going to Alamo Drafthouse. Super cool, because you can tell just like walking in there that like people love movies that work there. And I wish there was one closer to us, because that is literally the only place I would go to watch movies. I would forsake every other theater if there was one within driving distance to me.
Yeah. Now, the movie tavern is only about 30 minutes from us. That's not terrible.
No, that's not terrible. But I just like the Alamo Drafthouse. Like, I like the feel of it. Like, I know the movie tavern's like, hey, come eat and watch a movie. But the Drafthouse is like, the biggest problem I have in movie theaters nowadays is people just won't shut up, or like they'll check their phone. And so I love there's just somebody.
Oh, what's that sound mean?
That sound means it's halftime.
Woo!
But I love knowing that there's somebody out there that's like, oh, I can't wait to see a phone. If I see one phone, you're gone. Like, I love that. So if you haven't listened to the show before, this is halftime. This is the part of our show where Crocker and I take a break from the conversation we're having to talk about recent movies we've seen, movie news, stuff we're excited about. It's also the part of the show where we've been giving away our free digital copies. And this week we're going something kind of Marvel, just like to the side of what we're talking about right now. And so we're going to be giving away the free digital copy of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. And this movie is really, really, really awesome. If you guys haven't seen it yet, this is a great opportunity to check it out for free. Super good movie, really emotional, a lot of like Spider-Man exploration in it. So it's really cool. If you want to enter to win the free digital copy of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, you just have to comment the code word Parker below on the YouTube video you're watching right now, or direct message me at Scruffy Movies on Instagram. Again, the code word is Parker, and you'll be entered to win a free digital copy of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Awesome.
What do you got?
So I'm going to start with what is undoubtedly on your list as well, and that's going to be the Joker trailer.
Yep.
It's fantastic. I'll let you sort of dive deeper into that because I know you've probably got more to say about it than I do. Mm-hmm. Secondly is My Spy. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, with Dave Bautista?
Yeah, dude. It actually looks – it's definitely like a family comedy, like absolutely a cop kid, whatever that is, cop and a half style comedy. But I just like Dave Bautista, so I'm a fan of his, and I saw that trailer and it looked pretty good. So I'm going to give that a chance.
Yeah.
And then what I'm most excited about, and surely you've heard of this by now and it just slipped past me, but the Dead Don't Die.
Oh, yeah.
Have you heard of this?
Yeah, with Bill Murray and Adam Driver.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And Steve Buscemi and like Tom Waits and Danny Glover and Iggy Pop and like a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
Selena Gomez. It's just a silly zombie movie from what I can tell, but it looks fantastic. It's been a while since we've gotten a really good silly zombie movie. And hopefully Zombieland is going to come out. Zombieland 2 will be coming out, before too long as well.
It's coming out in October.
Zombieland 2?
Yeah.
Gotcha. And then one other thing I did just want to throw out here is that I don't know if I've actually even talked to you about this yet, but I'm currently going back through and watching the original Twin Peaks series.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen that?
I bought it, I own it, and I watched like the first part of the first season. And it wasn't from like disinterest that I stopped watching. I just like got caught up watching other stuff, and I just haven't been back to finish it yet.
It's great. It's got me super sucked into it. It is, this is going to sound like a knock, and it kind of is, but it's kind of not at the same time, is that it's way more soap opera-y than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be more like American Horror Story, but instead it's definitely got some more soap opera elements to it. But it's also kind of from the late 80s, early 90s, where things were not made to binge and there was a big deal having to wait between episodes and all of that. So I give it a little bit of a break for that. Anywho, I'd strongly suggest it for anyone out there who has not checked it out. And then as soon as I get done with this, I'm going to watch the movie because I think there's a movie to go with it, and then the new Twin Peaks season as well. But I think it actually got canceled after the first or second season because it was not that successful.
It came on for one season, but I don't know if they ever meant it for it to like actually come back. I think it was like a limited series event, and like they meant it to just be however many episodes they released, and then like that was it.
That makes sense.
Is that it?
That's all I got.
All right. Well, of course, first up on my list is the Joker trailer. This was a movie when they announced it, I wasn't really sure what I was going to think about it. But now that when I started to see like pictures and stuff come out, I got a little more excited. And then finally after this trailer, I am like full steam ahead. It looks absolutely incredible. And I think this is where DC can embrace their dark side and actually do it like well. I don't want every DC movie to be a Marvel movie. And this points to exactly the reason why DC is different than Marvel. There is no other, like, there's not a crime syndicate like Marvel movie villain that you could make a legitimate like gangster movie about. Like if this movie came out and it was rated R, I'd be like, yeah, makes sense. Because people are probably going to like die in it. I've been describing it to people that it looks like a Martin Scorsese movie about gangsters, except it just happens to be the Joker at the center of it and not just like a regular gangster, not Ray Liotta, just the Joker. And it looks really good. I'm very excited for it.
Same here. And you're right about the gangster movie.
Yeah.
Look and feel.
Yeah. Next up on my list, I remember us talking about this a little bit. I think it was in a halftime a few weeks ago, but Idris Elba was cast as Deadshot in James Gunn's Suicide Squad. Turns out they're actually going to keep Deadshot open in case Will Smith wants to come back, and Idris Elba will still be in Suicide Squad, but he will be playing a new character. I'm not sure who that character is going to be, so I'm still excited that Will Smith gets to keep his character because I like Deadshot. He was one of the highlights of the first Suicide Squad to me. I'm glad that Will Smith gets to retain that character, and it's not something that he's going to be replaced in for forever, because it wasn't just like this big nasty breakup or anything. It was legitimately just like, hey, I'm filming something else. And they're like, okay, well, Deadshot's in this, so Idris Elba. So I'm glad we get to keep Idris Elba. I'm glad Will Smith gets to keep his role. So I am excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because anytime you can not replace somebody, I say go for that. And I can't help but wonder if when the news broke that Heimdall was going to be replacing him, Will Smith, and the world reacted if DC was like, no, we were just kidding. He's totally going to be somebody else. And, if Will Smith wants to come back, he can.
Yeah, they might have been like, oh, yeah, the news misrepresented that for sure. And it was them like getting like the official press release off of the copier they were about to send out to everybody.
Exactly. Unplug that fax machine.
Yeah. Next up, I got to see Shazam over the weekend, and it was awesome. I really loved it. DC continues their upswing into good solo movies, and I'm very glad about that. It was incredible. I loved it a lot.
Haven't seen it yet. Definitely want to.
Very good. Also, something that you would be excited about, because I didn't even know that this was like going down before they showed Shazam. It said it came on screen. We saw it in IMAX, and it came up on screen. It was like an IMAX monster event or something like that. And I was like, oh, what is this for? And they actually showed like probably 5 or 6 minutes of the new Godzilla movie. And it looks absolutely freaking crazy in the best possible way. They showed the scene, and it looks like there were some cuts because there were some shots of like characters standing outside and seeing stuff happening, and then the next shot we see them is like in a plane. So I'm sure they cut out like little bits and pieces here and there. The scene's going to end up being longer, but we got the gist of it. And it was King Ghidorah being released from the ice, and he just absolutely starts shredding this naval base that's on this ice formation, and it is crazy. And then these people are like trying to take off, and Ghidorah knocks them down, and then all of a sudden you see like this blue light coming from underneath the water. And then Godzilla pops up, and it shows them like about to fight, and they go boom, and then it like jumps into a new trailer that I hadn't seen, some new stuff in it that I hadn't seen at all. And I just suffice to say, Godzilla King of the Monsters looks like it's going to be freaking crazy and incredible. It looked awesome seeing it in IMAX.
So what is this like sneak peek event thing? What was all that about? Do they do this on a regular basis and I just don't go to the movies enough?
Not that I know of. I do know for sure, though. I mean, Shazam came out under Warner Brothers, and they knew probably a lot of people were going to see that. And then Godzilla is also being released under the Warner Brothers banner. So probably just some kind of in deal they had with IMAX where they were like, oh, yeah, show 5 minutes of Godzilla King of the Monsters before it comes out in 2 months. And it looked crazy. Like, I had no idea that they were about to do it. I didn't even know that it was a thing that they were doing. But when it popped up on screen, I was like, ooh, yes, good. And by the end of it, I turned to my wife and I just whispered, holy shit. Like, it was crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Great.
I wonder if that was like a opening weekend only thing.
Maybe. I don't know. But it blew me away, just like the 5 minutes that I got to see of it. And I saw it out of context. Like, I didn't know the story leading up to it or what happens after. I saw it out of context and already, like, cut down for content. Like, I didn't even see the full scene. And still at the end of it, I was like, oh my God, yes! So that just goes to show you how crazy and probably awesome this movie is going to be. I saw a scene out of order, all like interspliced with just like they only wanted to show me certain stuff from the scene, and it still pumped me up.
God, I can't wait. When's that supposed to drop?
May, I believe. I think it comes out in just 2 months.
Ah, so we are getting close. That's probably why as well.
Yeah. Oh, it's gonna be good. It looks crazy. It looks crazy. But that was it for halftime for me today.
All right, I guess that brings us to Guardians 2.
Guardians 2.
So for me, Guardians of the Galaxy is definitely, again, like Doctor Strange, the original Guardians is in like the top few. But this one was still awesome, but nowhere near as awesome as the first one. I love the movie, great soundtrack, look great, all the awesome things you say about literally every Marvel movie. But I don't know. I think a lot of it was just maybe some of the aesthetic and some of the decisions that they made. Like, I wasn't a huge fan of Ego. The whole, like, that whole story in general it just felt like a bunch of people were like, oh man, we need to write another movie because the first one was so successful, and then they just threw this together. It just didn't seem like thought out. And then the like floating egg thing, I don't know, just rubbed me like the wrong way. And even Ego's whole like planet, which in reality in the comic book, Ego was the planet. He wasn't like someone of the planet. He was the planet. But I don't know, just a lot of that. I guess I expect my Guardians movies to feel more like Star Wars and less like Avatar, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Ego was the planet in this movie. He was just using like the Kurt Russell thing he was like an embodiment of the planet that could move and stuff. Like, he created itself, but he was the planet. Like, that was him.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I agree. When this movie first came out, people were asking me like how it was and all this stuff, what I thought about it. And my answer always was Guardians 2 has better character moments and better jokes, but it's definitely the weaker story of the two. Because really, the plot of the movie is the Guardians meet Peter's dad. That's pretty much it. Like, there's not, like, they just go to meet Peter's dad. There's stuff that goes on in between that, but the plot of the movie is they meet Peter's dad. Like, that's one line. Let's meet Peter's dad. That's Guardians 2. So it has funnier jokes, and I think that the characters get a better chance to shine in this one than they did in the first one. But yeah, Guardians 1 is one of my top 5 in the whole MCU as well. And so this one I was like extremely looking forward to. And I remember leaving a little bit like, man, like just there in the middle, like it started really good. And then they met Ego. And then in the middle, they were just kind of walking around the planet, kind of doing stuff. Rocket was doing stuff. Nebula was doing stuff. Yondu was doing stuff. But then it would go back to Peter and Gamora and Drax, and they were all just kind of walking around. and then it ends really cool. I love the ending.
The funeral, the Ravager funeral.
Yeah, funeral when they're actually like fighting Ego is incredible. I love all that stuff. I think the "I'm Mary Poppins, y'all" line is one of the best jokes in the entire MCU.
Yes.
So the movie has moments. Like, it has really good jokes and really good character stuff and really cool shots and good soundtracks. I love when Yondu and Rocket and Groot all break out of the Ravager ship. Incredible scene. Incredible scene. But then just the movie kind of in the middle was like, oh, yeah. Like, it just didn't live up to what I wanted it to be.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, even the Ravager funeral was a great just scene and moment in and of itself. Like out of the entire MCU, I loved it, and I agree with everything you just said. It was just a little blah in the middle. Started great, ended great, but a little too much blah to put it in the upper echelon of its surroundings in the MCU.
I was infinitely more interested in Rocket and Nebula and Yondu and Groot's story than I was about anything on the planet that was happening. And the planet was like the main story, and I could have cared less about that. As soon as they would switch back to like Nebula and Rocket, I was like, yes, here we go. All right. But then they would switch back to the planet, and I was like, oh, great. Let's have another scene with Peter's dad.
Do we have any idea when the next Guardians is coming out?
I believe they've said 2020. I think actually maybe 2021, because I think James Gunn is about to start shooting the Suicide Squad here relatively soon, like within the year. And then that's supposed to be released like 2020. So like as soon as he gets done editing that, I think he's going to like start shooting Guardians 3, because he's already written the script. So, I mean, he's like ready to go. They're just now waiting for him to finish Suicide Squad before he comes back and does Guardians.
Yeah, that makes sense. It sucks that we have to wait for that long, but
I honestly, I'm a little sad that we're having to wait for it, but this is the best situation I could have possibly hoped for. James Gunn is still doing Guardians, but now he's also doing Suicide Squad, and I that just excites me more than anything else, that we're getting a James Gunn Suicide Squad movie, but then we also still get to have James Gunn Guardians. Amazing. Best of both worlds.
Yep, I agree 100%. I think it was absolutely the best case scenario for the situation.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, anything else to say about Guardians before we move on?
Not much. I mean, I've kind of said my piece on it. I love the movie. I love the jokes and stuff, but just like the wraparound story of everything was just kind of, oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's not really a whole lot to like dig into there, because you're right. That's, I mean, it's a big point we're making is that there's not a whole lot to dig into.
Yeah.
All right, so Homecoming, Spider-Man.
Yes, this one's one of my top 5. I absolutely love Spider-Man. He's actually Spider-Man, the first one with Tobey Maguire, is the reason I am into superheroes as much as I am now. I had never been in that much into superheroes, like the first X-Men movie came out before that, and I was kind of interested in it. I watched it, and I was like, oh, cool. I had a couple toys, but Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire was the first one that I was like, oh my God, this is it. And so knowing that Spider-Man was coming back into the MCU, I was very excited. And I think that they cast the perfect person. I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man, because I think of the previous 2 Spider-Men we've had, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield, and I believe I've said this to you before. Tobey Maguire.
We've done a podcast on it before. Yeah,
we did an entire podcast. Tobey Maguire is a great Peter Parker, kind of an okay Spider-Man. He doesn't quip a lot. He doesn't, he wasn't the best Spider-Man. Andrew Garfield, quipping all the time, great Spider-Man, but he's like, was captain of the football team, Peter Parker. Like, that's not what I want my Peter Parker to be. That's not what I want him to look like. But Tom Holland is the perfect mix of Peter Parker and Spider-Man to me. And so going into Spider-Man Homecoming, I had a lot of expectations riding on it. I also love coming of age movies. I love teen movies and stuff like that. And it absolutely blew me away on everything. I loved that it was about him being more of a street level Avenger, and Tony was only kind of recurring in the background. I love the high school stuff. I love it was about Peter trying to grow up being Spider-Man, but he was still stuck in high school. So, I mean, I absolutely loved Homecoming. I thought Michael Keaton did fantastic as the Vulture. I love that this wasn't a villain that was out to in the world or put the world into their image and everyone bows to them. He was literally just like, my construction crew got shut down and I have to provide for my family. This is how I know how to do it. Like, he was never somebody who wanted to like take over the world. He was just doing bad things, so Spider-Man had to stop him. But I mean, I could keep going on, but this movie was just absolutely incredible to me. I love Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah, like you were saying there, they kept it all street level, all the way down to the villain. And I think, again, it sort of is a break from the norm that we've come to see in the Marvel movies that are being put out as sort of big, the not only is our planet on the line, but the galaxy is on the line. It's nice to pull it way back down to street level. And of course, Spider-Man is just the best character in the MCU to do that with. It's really sort of his purpose anyway, and what he was designed to do. And yeah, we've done an entire podcast on the Spider-Men of our generation. And I think this Spider-Man certainly ranks at the top, and I'm super excited to see what happens when they go to Europe.
Yeah, me too. I know that they're coming back at Endgame. I just don't know how, because they're already teasing another Spider-Man movie.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine that. Everybody lives and the day is saved, or at least we're led to believe. Maybe not everybody lives, but we certainly know some people do.
Yeah, but I mean, now, just because of Far From Home, there's so many more interesting in-game theories that you can come out of it with. Like, my wife even was like, there's no reason for Tony Stark not to be in that movie. There's no reason for Happy to be like the person that talks to Peter in that movie so much, unless Tony's dead. And I was like, stop it. Stop talking to me like that.
Yeah, gosh, I doubt. I don't want to get into this again, but I doubt they're going to kill Tony. They're going to sunset him. They're going to sell him away into the sunset. It's going to be all happy, joy.
I mean, there's a reason why Happy's the guy who's like, hey, you're totally alone. Nobody's coming to save you. I think that's when they're in the plane and he's having the conversation. He's like, Tony isn't here anymore. He can't just drop down and save you when he needs you to. You're by yourself. It's
yet to be seen.
Yeah, we don't know. Maybe that's exactly what they want us to be thinking.
It would not be uncharacteristic of Marvel to mislead.
Yes, very much so. They mislead a lot. I thought Hulk was going to be in Wakanda. He was not. Bruce Banner was.
This is true. But yes, Spider-Man Homecoming, great movie. Definitely top tier. I mean, top of the top tier Marvel.
Oh yeah, it's definitely one of my top 5. And just as kind of like a roundup, what an incredible phase this has been for Marvel. Phase 1 was cool because it was the one that started it off, but it still had like its couple of stinkers, Phase 2 had more than a couple of stinkers, but still had like a couple of shining diamonds in the rough. But Phase 3 has just been like banger after banger. Like there has not been one Phase 3 movie, even with the exception of Doctor Strange, because I still liked Doctor Strange. I didn't come out of it going like, like every movie I've come out of and been like, that was pretty good. Like there was always something better than what we'd seen in Phase 2 or Phase 1 coming out of the movie and being like, dang, they knew what they were doing on that one. Like every movie has been a straight banger.
Yeah, I would say Ant-Man and the Wasp or Civil War are definitely the two.
How dare you? Those are like the two. Some of the two I like the most.
You're so weird.
I freaking love Ant-Man and the Wasp, which we will talk about next week when we do our Phase 3 Part 2 podcast.
Sounds like a beautiful segue.
And that's gonna encompass Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Avengers, Infinity War, and Ant-Man and the Wasp. You might be tired of hearing us talk about Marvel, but we are not tired of talking about it yet, and we are very excited for Endgame, so we're going to keep talking about it a little bit more.
That's right, because this is a Marvel and Star Wars podcast.
Yeah, sometimes we talk about other movies, but basically, that's what this is.
Awesome. Well, any closing thoughts?
None for me. I think you're wrong about Civil War, and I think you're wrong about Ant-Man and the Wasp. That'll be the one that we fight about next week.
Well, I think you're wrong about Doctor Strange. So. I stick my tongue out at you.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of the Scruffy Movies podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, if you want to enter to win the free digital copy of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, just comment the code word Parker below on the YouTube video you're watching right now, or direct message me at Scruffy Movies on Instagram. Again, the code word is Parker. Please follow us on Instagram at Scruffy Movies.
And Crockalicious.
Thank you, everybody, for listening, and we will see you all next week when I talk to Crocker about how wrong he is about Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Bye!